We're quiet on the set.
Oh, we're quiet on this.
Have a quiet time.
I know it's hard for you, but it's quiet. Yeah, politicians, so.
Speak amongst yourselves.
Good Friday morning, guys. I'm Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. Today's show is going to be a lot of fun. Today's show will also be educational and enlightening. We hope you, the viewer and listener, join us in the conversation by asking questions of elected officials from 3 different neighboring jurisdictions. Tony O'Brien is in the House, Fluvanna County Board of Supervisors. Ned Gallaway is in the House, Albemarle County Board of Supervisors. Jesse Rutherford is in the House, Nelson County Board of Supervisors. This is a roundtable organized by the esteemed Keith Smith. I sincerely mean that. We'll have some fun with Keith, but we kid because we care, and I love this man dearly.
Just trying to figure out what esteemed means.
Real Talk with Keith Smith features a gentleman who's been in business since 1987 and a brokerage, Yes Realty Partners, that you can absolutely trust. Judah Wigcower's behind the camera. He's moved mountains to make this program possible. A 4-man set is now a 5-man set over there. I just want to highlight that one more time for Keith Smith.
I've given fair warning to everybody that this was going to be 5-person.
We got a basically to put that in layman's perspective, we have a Geo Metro or a Toyota Prius that is now driving a football team to the football field today. That's basically how I put that together. It's crowded over here.
Tony and I are in the back.
Does anybody remember, who's old enough here to remember when they used to try to stick all the people in the Beetle?
Yeah, the clown show.
Oh yeah, I love that show. Was that Herbie?
No,
that was a different one.
What was that? Was
God, I can't remember it.
Ringling Brothers did a skit on that? And then,
Studio camera, Judah. I'm sure you're doing that, and then a 5-shot.
was it Monty Python? Maybe?
I think that might.
Well, if it's Mighty Python,
Right.
we probably can't talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, we're kicking off today a series every. He's laughing in his cup of coffee. We're kicking off every third Friday of the month. We're doing a round table with some of my elected buddies. These poor folks had the misfortune of seeing my face for, in some cases, decades, in some cases about 15 years. And I just want to have an open roundtable discussion about what's going on in our jurisdictions, and hopefully we'll get a bunch of questions from the feed and just have a little bit of fun and share some information in this long form format that we've been wrapping up our 7th year.
That's awesome.
And in April, I can't remember exactly when, we're going to cross the threshold to doing this 8 years running.
Congratulations.
Well, you think one day I get good at this? So.
You're excellent at
Hope
this.
springs eternal. I don't know.
So why don't we do a quick thing just for the few folks that don't know who you are. We'll go from my right to the left, who you are, what jurisdiction, and then we'll just jump into some questions.
Tony O'Brien, Fluvanna County. I represent the Rivanna district, which is essentially the inside part of the lake.
It handles how many?
About 4,500 people.
Yeah.
So Ned Gallaway, I represent the Rio district in Albemarle County. So out, kind of Rio Road, 29 North, out kind of caps out at the UVA Research Park up there on 29 North. Got some of Earlysville.
And both of you guys are chairman.
Jesse Rutherford, introduce yourself.
Oh, boy. If you don't know me, my name is Jesse Rutherford, East District Board of Supervisor, Vice Chair currently, and in Nelson County I represent basically the Livingston, Schuyler, and Wingina, and Howardsville, and all the places in between. So
You guys are multiple term supervisors here. Tony, how many terms?
I am in the beginning of my third term now, right? Well, no, fourth term.
Fourth term for Tony O'Brien, third for Ned Gallaway.
third for me.
Third. So collective combined governance amongst you 3. This is pretty impressive. What's the?
4 times.
I mean, who's better at math than me? One of you guys.
Is that what, are we? And this is with the assumption
you're
we finish all
starting
4.
your third, right?
We're
Are we going
starting
to
our
talk budgets?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get at how experienced
math
these
right
guys
now.
are.
We might have some
So
questions.
I'm in my 13th year. You guys are in your.
I'm in my ninth year.
Ninth year. Yes.
18 plus 13. Right?
Yeah, do that, man.
Gets 32, right?
Yeah.
31, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. 31 years
31.
of combined
That's-
governance here.
My whole life.
Yeah.
That's
I mean-
you're 31?
I'm 31.
31.
that's-
Fantastic.
I
That's
was
amazing.
school president. Does that count?
School president does not count.
Oh, it doesn't,
It
okay.
does not count. But these guys are in budget season right now, Keith Smith.
We are, but at the moment, Mr. Smith is trying to figure out what his password is to Facebook.
Not 31?
Huh?
Not 31.
Not 31.
Not 31.
So, but I want to kick off with our county and kick off with the power station.
Oh, you and everybody else.
Everybody else. Yeah, let's talk about electricity. So is Fluvanna?
No. I came up with this new term, ask whole. A-S-K-H-O. I just came up with this
Ask
new term.
whole.
So you kick off a little bit on the power station, and I'm going to try to get my friend Judah up and running
Okay.
here.
Well, in case you're coming out because it's Petoxy Phil and Fluvanna County has been entertaining a new proposal for another gas plant in Fluvanna County, 1.5 gigawatts, which is pretty substantial as far as a gas-fired plant goes. The applicant was Tenaska. We took a vote on Wednesday. It was a 4-1 vote to pass it. This was, after, of course, months and months of deliberation, working through the Planning Commission, doing all those kinds of things. And it was a difficult vote for our county. A lot of people were very concerned about the climate impacts as well as health impact potentially from the PM 2.5 that is generated by the plant, the pollution that's generated by the plant. There were also concerns about noise levels and how that would be handled. But at the end of the day, the board kind of weighed all these issues, worked with the applicant. We had it was 49 conditions, but really, some of the conditions had sub-conditions inside of it.
Oh, wow.
So 49 conditions. And then we used a mechanism that we'd never used before, which was rather interesting, which was restrictive covenants. And so we were able to add a couple of other items in the restrictive covenants. Net package altogether to the county of Fluvanna, when you look at both the restrictive covenants and some of the commitments that Tenaska made, as well as the underlying tax base of this $2 billion project, is about $300 million over the course of the life of the project. That's pretty substantial money for our county, just to put it in perspective. That is going to go a long way to working to reduce the tax burden on homeowners. 91% of the tax
We're at
burden is on
91%
home.
now?
I think right around there, 91%, down from 93 12 years ago. But with water coming to Zion's Crossroads are already there, and interest in new development all happening on that side, we're starting to see that balance change. And this, of course, will help a lot.
Right.
I want to pick that apart for a little bit. So in my research, 35%, you correct me if I'm wrong, 35% of Virginia's power is imported, is that correct? Oh, yeah.
It's very significant. I'm glad you actually raised that point. Virginia is a net importer. It's part of the PJM grid. The PJM grid serves 13 states in the Mid-Atlantic. Right now, the assessment and the PJM is a nonprofit organization that kind of manages the whole grid network in the Mid-Atlantic, but also, in essence, is the auction house for pricing when producers such as Tenaska, which are peakers, provide electricity to companies like Dominion and CVEC, because every company is, essentially trying to do a little bit of load balancing, if you want to look at it from that perspective. Sure. You don't want to build to max capacity, but you want to make sure that the pool has the ability to deal with max capacity. Well, really, what's happening at the PJM grid level right now is that max capacity is already there, and so the commissioners of the PJM have essentially been saying we are at a near critical stage. Now they're saying we are at that critical stage and could be facing rolling blackouts and
We don't
brownouts.
have our friends from Louisa here, but I think data centers are a big part of it.
Of course, a lot of the impact is coming from the growth of data centers. That's a really significant aspect of it. Fluvanna County doesn't have a data center, but it doesn't mean that as
Sure.
you look at the grid isn't, well,
Right.
my power plant serves me. The grid serves the entire region, and so it's important for the entire aspect. And as much as you may or may not like the data centers and the reality of AI today, The practical aspect of it is that we are moving away from fossil fuels at a net level into electrification, such as vehicles and so on. And of course, all of the ability to work from home and doing things along those lines has really changed kind of how we're using, our technology. And AI is both a economic
Right.
and security aspect into how our country runs. So these are really key fundamental issues, and I think it's, I don't want to say disingenuous, but I think maybe you're missing the point if you think it's just about my electricity, right? And my, needs in terms of that. AI is probably the most significant thing that we're seeing happening in this country, in this world. And
it's fast.
And it's moving very quickly. And so if we want to continue to be a premier technology-based society, we better stay on top of that.
It was interesting. My research was that most of our power is coming from West Virginia, your home state, Ned, and Pennsylvania, which are still using coal, majority coal.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, that this power plant will change that dynamic a little bit.
Well, I mean, if you look at Virginia, it has over 193 power plants, and they range from nuclear, solar, wind, natural gas, biosolids, petroleum. 30, so it's a total of 20, almost 28 gigawatts of power that's produced in Virginia. 30 of those plants are natural gas. So, if you look at 28 gigawatts and the 30 that are producing it, they're producing 14 gigawatts. So 1.5 gigawatts of additional natural gas is 10% on top of that. But that's 10% that you're maybe, as you're aging out some of these other older plants that are the biomass petroleum plants, coal plants, right? We do have 2 coal plants in Virginia. As you age those out, you're replacing that dirtier technology. So actually, if you look at the net increase, and if you look at the net sort of pollution impact level, it's actually declined by like 16% in the last decade here in Virginia. So that's part of that transition. So it's, yes, you're adding on, yes, you're adding more pollution, but hopefully, to your point, you're also taking away from the dirtier producers from that standpoint. I think that was a point that a lot of folks struggle to understand.
I mean, and when it comes to the electric conversation, of course, we share some Virginia Electric Co-op, and we've seen changes in the rates. And when the co-ops are changing their rates, you kind of have a systemic major problem because
absolutely.
Co-ops are not made to make money. That's the whole purpose of them. And just hearing some of the comments from Mr. Wood and some of my interactions with the members of the co-op, I mean, we need an all of the above approach, of course, and that's electricity in every regard in a lot of different ways. And of course, when it comes to clean energy, that's of course important. And doing your due diligence to make sure it's not impacting certain pieces of your day-to-day life. But our energy crisis is a crisis, and watching gas at approaching $4 and diesel going over $5. I mean, we've got an electric grid issue, and we've got to start taking really major steps. And honestly, some of the steps that need to be taken on electricity almost need to be what the federal government and the state did to address internet in the United States during COVID.
Yeah, and
you need that much
So
investment.
we ended up at internet with Nelson County.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, of course, we had to get to internet, electricity, but the
Who was the
modular.
first county to have internet?
It was Nelson County. Yeah, actually, ever. It goes back a couple thousand
Beginning of
years,
time,
pretty much.
2000.
Yeah, God foretold this.
Went from the can and the string.
Yes, yeah.
There's a bit of
It
an
was on the
inside
ark
joke.
Smoke
when
signals,
it
smoke
flooded.
signals, yeah.
They left a little fiber line.
There's an inside joke here, right? Every planning district commission meeting we have, he usually kicks in somewhere about Nelson County had the first internet.
I think that joke has made it to this talk show here.
I'm sure it
regularly
has.
do that.
It was.
I
That's where it began.
And in fact, Neil Williamson says the irony, and we have to weave our friend Ned Gallaway into the mix here. He's got a lot going on with Albemarle County, but Neil Williamson, the irony of discussing data centers on an internet-based talk show. Tony O'Brien is not lost on me. Neil Williamson right there.
And
We
trust
literally
me,
had that conversation.
there was a lot of internet activity regarding me and my decisions. So.
I actually was going to go to your town hall that you were hosting the
Oh,
other
yeah,
day.
that was a lot of fun
I
there.
really wanted to go.
He's got a town hall coming up,
Yeah,
right?
let's talk to Ned a little bit.
I want to go to yours.
Oh,
This
you
is
did it last night.
This is
Okay.
a town hall, right?
Yeah, basically, this is a town
Town
hall.
hall.
This is probably the most watched town hall that you guys may do here. But Ned Gallaway just just did one last night. How was the attendance? What happened?
The attendance was great. It was it was at the center at Belvedere. It's specifically for our budget. We do budget town halls every year, and it's a chance for there's staff there. So the first little half hour is about mingling, getting to go around, meet the people in the different departments, ask questions. Then there's a presentation to give the high level overview of the budget, and then the remainder is Q&A. So I got a lot of great questions last night. The turnout was phenomenal. But it also had other supervisors there listening to folks. We had
And Malik.
Ann was there, B was there, Sally was there, Fred was there. It was not an announced meeting. We didn't talk to one another, so just
Right.
from public meeting issues, which we announced last night as well. But also Jim Dillenbeck, the new representative of the Rio District, was in attendance. We were able to introduce him to folks. And
School board.
School board chair, Dr. Berlin, was also in attendance. So it was a packed house. I mean, it was, I'm always amazed at the questions we get, because it's never one thing. Like, obviously if it's a Tenasca or rezoning or something like that, all of it's going to be really hyper-focused on that. But last night it pretty much covered the whole swath of what we do. And it's interesting to watch folks do that, because it's like, well, what are they thinking? What are their concerns? And a lot of it was not, and this has been my experience over the last couple of years, it's never usually like, don't do this or do that. It's always explain to me why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that was the tone of the whole evening. So I really appreciate the folks in my district that come out and treat it that way, because I think that is the level of conversation we should be doing. You should be asking me why we're choosing to pay for some things, maybe not pay for other things as much, and why. And if we're raising taxes or proposing for you to respond to, we should explain to you why we're doing that and what the circumstances are. So we were able to do that. It was good stuff.
So that's a good segue, because this guy I know said, if you watch how elected officials vote during their budget season, you
Yeah,
kind of know
yeah.
how they're going to vote the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some guy by the name of Ned.
Yeah, in our budget meeting Wednesday, the work session, we did that. We had to take votes on some things. Now, we've kind of parked because it depends on some wiggle of others. But yeah, at the end of the day, once you start taking those kind of votes, then it loads into where the budget's at. Then you can start going, did he say that when he was campaigning? Was that consistent with what he's said in the past? So to me, that's a good part of the process.
Well, something struck me from Wednesday's meeting, and then this could tie to all jurisdictions. Supervisor Pruitt, Scottsville District, Albemarle County, proposed advertising a 1 cent real estate tax rate increase and a 29-cent personal property tax rate increase. And last year there was a 4-cent real estate property tax
How's that
increase.
say, yeah?
Yeah.
Y'all do this every year.
And they don't talk about equalized rates.
I could just
Do you
let
know
Jesse
what the
Rutherford host
concept
it.
of
Go ahead.
equalization
Yeah.
is? Have you
So
ever heard of it before?
So just so I can prove what you're asking me, if we were to equalize in the current year,
Yeah.
it would be 85. We're at 89.4, so it would be at 85. Let's see, 85.3, I think. I think it's 85.4.
Okay.
It's 5.2 cents is what it would take to equalize. That would be about a $16 or $17 million equivalent to the operating budget. So for those that are asking, so that they go, do they even talk about it or think about
they ever
it?
talk
There it
about
is.
it, think
So for us
We
to
don't talk about
for us to equalize, we would have to find in the budget a place to reduce things by that $17 million to be able to equalize.
To meet this year's budget.
To meet
To
this
meet
year's
this
budget.
year's from last year's.
So Jesse, do me a favor.
Yeah.
Jump in and explain what equalization actually is.
Yeah, okay. I'm
do
explaining
math?
but
This might be equation also to the internet as the Nelson County way, right?
let me just
I like the Nelson
for those
County
who
way. I like
heard
the
of
Nelson County way.
equalization. Whenever we do assessments, we say, "Oh my gosh, we can't do this to the taxpayer."
How often do you do assessments?
Every 4 years.
Wasn't it longer than that this last time?
No, that's Amherst. Amherst did 6 years.
6 years.
Amherst has an entirely different disaster. They had,
Let's stay on top.
But-
I'm sorry.
Anyways, yeah, you got me.
Squirrel.
Okay, sorry.
topic.
Equalization is when the assessments have increased to a certain number, and to equalize the revenue that the county had year over year, you reduce the real estate tax, which however many pennies, percentage,
The rate.
the rate, down so that it equals a little bit closer to the revenue the county received last year. It's never equal exactly, but Nelson County's philosophy is how much are we equalizing? We always try to equalize down as far as we can, normally.
And then
Well,
you- and then
for a
you-
layman's
then you work.
person's perspective,
Yeah.
I live in Fluvanna County, so ultimately next year, my dollars that comes out should be the
Should be
same.
as close, yeah.
So as close to
Yeah.
what I paid.
I make it very simple. What's 10 times 8?
I don't know.
All right, I figured. What's 8 times 10?
Is it the same thing? Is it the same thing?
Alrighty,
So we
gentlemen.
have to do a math equation?
Now listening to Albemarle
I
supervisors
just
talk
want to
about-
let you know, I do have sponsors and I'd like
Yeah.
to hold
Well,
on.
it's okay. Tony's only in charge of $161 million over there. It's all right. Is that what it is? 161
160?
for fiscal year 2027?
Well, yes, but only because we allocated part of our proffer money from Dominion, which was a very substantial.
That's a
50
large
million.
number.
It was a $50 million.
Oh, wow, okay.
I think we allocated $45 million into the CIP for some of our programs. So that's a
That
really
makes
Mainly
sense.
water
That's
and,
different. That's different.
in the Bremo Bluff, Fork Union area, right? So that's the start of that program. That
So the goal is to get my dollars out of my pocket
Sure.
to be balanced as the year before.
Yes, and if you listen to Albemarle supervisors speak, they say, we're not raising your tax rate.
Well,
Except for this year.
Which is a
Pause.
true statement.
Pause.
This year in the personal, in your real estate taxes, this year, it did pass 4-2 to advertise to raise the personal property tax 15 cents. So
15
that would
cents.
be from $4.28 of $100 of assessed value to $4.33 of every 100. And that, where that hits and impacts people is their cars, mostly. It's machinery and tools as well.
Yeah. Well, and it's important to emphasize, let me throw this out here. A whiskers hair, a Ned Gallaway whiskers hair away here from a 29-cent personal property tax rate increase advertised, 3.3. So it's not advertised because it was 3.3.
Right.
And a 1 cent real estate tax rate increase, 3.3. Did not pass.
And I'll do the rationale or the justification for the supervisor that was proposing it, which was Supervisor Pruitt.
Who's, I believe, is watching the show.
But the reason he was doing exactly the 1 cent, then the initial 29 cent on the personal property was the target for our county that we've not had majority supervisors in the past agree to want to get there, but it was the $10 million into the Affordable Housing Investment Fund.
Yeah.
So what he was doing was taking the county executive's recommended budget, which is a combo of some operating and one-time monies which is at $5 million.
Right.
And then in Mike's mathing, if you did a 1 cent tax on the real estate and then you did the 29 cent on the real personal property, the way that taxes are collected, because we would still collect some from the current year, the way that works, it allowed him to get in his math to get to that $10 million number.
Yeah,
So that's exactly, because it was all going to be dedicated for affordable housing.
Yeah, all kidding aside, I mean, we, as supervisors, all struggle with the budgetary process. And
That's your
you know,
hardest thing you do.
Yeah, and it's not like we're not unaware of the impact of raising taxes on people. We totally get that. Yeah. Whether it's stated or whether it's through assessment increases or so on, we all know what that feels like. And so, going back to electricity, going back to gas, going back to healthcare, going back to all the things that are driving affordability problems right now, when you have an opportunity to help to reduce the tax burden on the folks with projects like Tenasca, this is something we can control. I can't control the rate of water.
No.
Can't control the electric costs.
No.
I can't control those things. But what I can do is try to control, how much we end up spending and also how much of that spending, how much of the revenues that we're collecting are coming from
That
homeowners
91% you
versus
talk about,
businesses.
how much is this power going to move that needle?
Well, in the first couple of years, once the plant is in production, it's $14 million a year. That's 31 cents on our current tax rate right now.
Yeah.
That's if you take our current rate, proposed rate for this year of 77 cents. That's 41%. Were we to take all that money and apply it to the tax rate, right? That's 41% tax decrease that you could potentially apply.
Really great.
That's really
that's not
substantial.
Really
That's not
substantial.
That's not realistic because we are going to use some of those things for other projects.
But even
that
if
we
it's
have.
half of it.
But
Well-
even if it's half of it, it's still very significant,
Well-
and that makes a huge difference.
I mean, Louisa could do that maybe tomorrow.
well, Louisa could
They could actually,
bankroll us all.
Louisa
right?
could get rid of all of their tax rates.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
And
so-
ours.
And
and
ours.
ours too.
And geez, I wonder
And-
why.
How many power plants do they have?
How many data centers in the billions?
So, change subject a little bit, back to you, Jesse.
Sure.
I'm just wondering how you guys are gonna navigate what the state's giving you for the school systems.
Oh,
because-
it's a disaster.
So just to set the stage here, from 2019
Yeah.
to now, you've lost 15% of your student body. We've lost 8 in Fluvanna County. I think you're around 2 or 3 in
Yeah.
Albemarle County. But how,
We-
most folks don't know this, that, right?
They're getting
Set-
schooled.
Set the stage. on
Yeah,
how-
I think since the early 2000s, Nelson had late 90s to today, we've lost a student population. I believe it's about 500-600 kids. We only had about 2,000 to start with, so now we're down to 1,300.
Wow.
So Nelson's getting hit on 2 fronts. One, the student pupil, the pupil loss, of course, and then the LCI change. Because Nelson County our assessments keep going up, we're actually like the 4th highest expectation by the state to pay more money for our school system, based
From
on the SOQ
from
from the local. So we are, over the next 5 years, are expected to pay, not expected, the state is just going to take $1 million a year
Wow.
over the next 4 to 5 years. So we get hit twice. We get hit with the LCI and we get hit with the rebenchmarking.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a disaster. So when we talk about assessments, basically in equalization, the LCI has dominated our conversation.
Yeah.
How is it that
So
we?
to give that acronym, please, what that stands for?
Oh, gosh.
Local composite index, yeah.
Good job, school board.
Not the
man.
least composite.
And so the local composite index, it basically is this complex formula. I actually have a picture on my phone. It uses real estate assessments, it uses incomes to some degree, and it divides it out over this very complex formula. And it says on this very not fictitious, but it should be, SOQ budget, which is what the state thinks your budget should be to govern a school system, never is possible.
Standards of quality, right?
Yeah, standards of quality, which doesn't even include all the staff, just a certain number. And
So our state representatives can say they funded.
absolutely, and our
Gave a teacher
And-
bonus.
and-
and I
to
can
half of them.
And at this point, Nelson County has suffered through this for 8 years in a row for me, and I can confidently say that our state officials will do nothing to address it. We've successfully not gotten any more hold harmless. They've said, "Good luck. Nelson County should just pay for it all," and we are about to be equal with Fairfax City in the expectation to pay the maximum amount. 80%. They're expecting the local government to pay 80% of that tiny SOQ budget. Not even tiny, still millions.
Sounds like they've been visiting your breweries.
Apparently, yeah. They can afford this, but they take that tax money too. So we don't even get that,
So Ned, jump in and from Albemarle County.
Well, it's something that every school division in locality has to contend with. 2 years ago is when Albemarle took a hit, and it was to the tune of $9-10 million. So the county executive in his current recommended budget, and this is creating consternation between the two elected boards with us this year. He's
So
brought
that's between the elected. your
before
board,
his school board and the
board,
board
yeah.
of supervisors, the county executive brought forward a plan to fund the school's operations to the tune of, basically the local dollar increase is about $9 million. They're getting, that's year over year, that's
Yeah.
what they're getting. The state's coming in, I think the state additional monies are in that like $10-11 million a year for them. So they've got extra money this year. Now that's the opposite of what happened to them 2 years ago from the state. So the county executive said, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to fund your operations. We got 2 new schools coming online. Let's make sure the operations are handled for that. Let's send the money over that's going to cover it, that $9 million. But we're going to take $6.8 million that would traditionally go over in the form of our split that has been a guideline over the years. And we're going to keep that in a CIP reserve. Sure. We're going to do that for 2 years in a row. So you have the 6.4 million year 1, 6.4 million year 2. So at the end of 2 years, you'd have $12.8 million banked away in your CIP. What also, though, you've banked away is that 6.4 is still there for you in year 3 to be able to use for operating.
Yeah.
So if the LCI switches and goes the
opposite
other direction again,
No, that's smart.
if it's 9,
like
10,
that.
$11 million, you'd have money that you could use to help
year.
lessen the hit.
Yeah.
If it's $3 million hit, then you've got enough to cover it. The school division's recommended budget, once all of the money's sent over to them, which would be about $16 million. The superintendent recommended putting $4 million into a CIP reserve for the first year. The rest would go to operations, and then it's unfair to say they're not doing anything in year two. They just haven't really even discussed year two, so there's no plan for that. But what would happen then, if everything stays equal, then it's just the normal kind of, normal increased costs. What did we come and ask for in 2 years? But if that LCI goes and the state yanks money back, they're going to be looking to us to fill that
the
gap.
void. Yeah.
So Albemarle, about 3-4 years ago, we started doing multi-year budgeting, where we've said, all right, let's not plow everything into operations every year. Let's start building for things. The county executive has explicitly stated that without us building the bridge, which we're dipping into our budget stabilization reserve, 0.5% this year, 0.5% next year, to help us get to year three, because what starts happening in year three, we start seeing revenue from AstraZeneca coming in.
That's huge.
So the
I
school
love that term,
division's
budget
unhappy.
stabilization, yeah, that's what I like.
The school division's unhappy. They want the dollars. They want the decision. So I understand the point of view, but that's where we're at right now. And there seems to be disagreement on our board of exactly how that could play out.
So for those who know, CIP's capital improvement plan, right? So
Buildings,
buildings, so
fire
forth.
trucks.
And listen to this little nugget on local composite
Water
index.
system.
We have something called the revenue sharing agreement with the city of Charlottesville.
That's crazy.
So local composite index, the complex formula that Jesse was talking about, is basically a county's ability to pay that they're calculating.
Right.
The $20 million that we send to CVille,
Is it 22?
$22 million.
22 and a half, actually, I think.
The state considers that still in our coffers
That's
for our
bananas.
ability to pay.
That's bananas. Oh
And
my
that's money
God.
you gotta make. You're getting
That
you're
money's
paying-
just going straight on over.
Why?
You're getting hit twice, but I know.
There's so many questions
I've been
here.
reading Jerry's body language. I know he's
Out
Yeah,
of
I'm
curiosity, with the revenue sharing agreement, is that ever a topic of consideration why we're still doing this with your supervisors?
Well, I mean, it's two jurisdictions that agreed and came to the agreement back when the city was allowed to annex property.
That's the key.
A perpetuity
So-
contract.
And the voters endorsed it and voted on it. So the voters voted on it. So legally, to change it, you'd have to have both jurisdictions would want to agree to do it. Well, one of those, it's kind of, y'all got HOAs in your?
Yeah.
And you know how when sometimes other properties want to do something through their property, how that's like not in their interest to do that? Yeah. So it would take something that, like legally, there's no way to get out of it. Some people think, and it seems to have reared its head again, it hadn't really come up in 6 years, 7 years. But people seems to think that it's just an act of leadership or legal maneuvering or something like that to change this. Well, it's pretty well locked in.
Is there an end date?
No, it's
There's no end date in the contract.
Well, take yourself back to when it got put into place. At the time, there was no moratorium on annexing property. The way the city was going to be able to grow their own revenue base was to take the land, to be able to commercialize it, to be able to get the revenue. Well, since Albemarle wanted that revenue too, right? They were going, well, we don't want them taking our land, so here's the agreement.
Here's
We
your
will
$20.
share what's coming from that. So when you think of the logic of the agreement back in the context, it's not unreasonable. It's just none of them would have known that if the state puts a moratorium on cities to be able to annex property, and then eventually it just goes away. So now all the places that maybe did those revenue sharing agreements are left going, what?
Yeah.
We all done enough a little bit of business at this table.
I mean, you're talking about 10% of Charlottesville's
I mean,
budget
that's
is coming from Albemarle.
straight
right?
No contract is.
That's why I asked.
Yeah. I mean, all contracts are living documents in way, some shape or form, right? I'm not gonna write a real estate contract with Tony.
You just shook my hand, baby.
All I'm
That's a
saying,
contract.
consideration,
That's a
yeah.
contract.
10%.
there seems to have been disgruntlement over the revenue sharing agreement for decades, and they haven't figured out how to come up with, because it's not something that one can force on the other.
Yeah.
And when you sit there, and you all are business people, if you sit there and you go, well, what's in it for me? And that's not a bad thing,
No.
but it would have to be something that would make up for in a value proposition for the city to be able to.
The only way out I would see is a lump sum from Albemarle to Charlottesville to get out.
Right.
That's the only way I could see
And
out.
I don't see,
That's not
why
gonna
would they negotiate?
Yeah.
Well, Charlottesville's on they're in the, what's it called? The
Catbird seat.
Yeah, catbird seat. They're in the catbird seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But
when you negotiate, you always negotiate for position of strength.
Right.
Oh, yeah. There's
You are not in that position.
Right.
But excuse me, Ned, can we change the way the state is funding you?
So back in when I was on the school board, there was an effort, and this was created tension between the city school board, the city council, and Albemarle, and it really put, frankly, David Toscano back then in a little bit of a pickle because he was representing both jurisdictions. What we tried legislatively back then was to go to the state and say, can you at least adjust in the local composite index and treat the revenue sharing amount as if it's not in our coffers? That we can adjust our ability to pay to the tune of that amount. What that ends up meaning for the Charlottesville and the Albemarle school divisions, it's not just a lump sum change to either one's favor or disfavor. It can flip-flop back and forth. So we tried it in 1 year, and of course, then you've got the county down there lobbying for one thing, you've got the city lobbying for another, and then the rest of the states going, it's your agreement.
Oh, yeah.
So that was kind of, it didn't really go anywhere with the rest of the GA.
See, Tony, if I were you, I'd try to figure out how to get that same agreement with Louisa.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I think probably to the tune of 150 mil.
Yeah.
I would love to hear the conversation with Tony and Fitzgerald Barnes and how that goes over there. Yeah, I know Fitz fairly well. I have a feel for what Fitz would do.
I'm
Yeah.
calling Tom.
Yeah, we love our.
Tommy, we're taking Zion's Crossroads.
That's right. Rachel, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's
Pay
just
me
a
a
little bit
couple
over
million.
here, yeah.
A little here, a little there.
Go ahead.
So, let's dial it back a little bit, right? So, what are your projected budget? What do you think your budget's gonna be?
Golly, it's kind of hard
Round
to
numbers, there's a reason I'm asking. It's round.
I think if once you add in the school system into the whole pool, it's probably about 77 to 80 mil.
So I don't think what a lot of folks understand is how you get to that revenue, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't understand how much money comes from the state, how much of that comes from the feds,
Yep.
right? And then how much is the local dollars.
impact.
So big numbers, right? Is it a third comes from the state,
I mean, the state is always the biggest number in pretty much everything.
and they're dialing it back?
I think we're around
Oh,
45%
yeah,
is
I
what
think it's
we
about
contribute.
30 to, yeah, I think it's
And,
we're-
between the
we're-
feds and
for
the
just
state,
the school, we're definitely well above 50, 60%.
you contribute. for
Yeah,
this
we're
as well.
probably 50, 60%.
So we're not quite
If
at 50% of the budget.
No.
Is local dollars, is
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Oh, yeah, I would say it's probably over 50% of our budget of this. I mean, we're getting down
Yeah.
to that. I mean, it would,
We're at 700 plus million for the total budget. The schools are asking for, they've asked for the 315. So with ours, we'd be transferring somewhere between 307, 309, depending on what we land with it.
Yeah.
And that's with the CIP and everything in there, so.
yeah.
I mean, their school budget is more than our entire budget, double.
Somebody
And
said,
the schools
With the
want
CIP.
more. I mean, the head of the Albemarle County Teacher Union is on social media today
Collective bargaining.
throwing
Oh, yeah.
shots over the, at the Board of Supervisors about not allocating enough. That's happening right now.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, that's something we're all going to have to deal with, right? I mean, that's
So
a big
those
thing.
that are watching and listening that don't live in the state of Virginia, we have a pretty decent following here. New York, for instance, has two separate tax structures, right? One tax for the school and one
Yep.
tax for the local government. I think I know the answer to this question. Is that a path that we're never going to see here in Virginia?
I don't know, that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
I just don't think we got
So the schools spend the money, but you allocate.
we have to
Yeah.
allocate, and they don't have any taxing authority. I mean, it's always part of the, we once talked in supervisor school, you talk about the.
Oh, there is such a thing?
Yes, there is. I'm actually getting certified. After it was year 9, I said,
That's
it's time to get certified.
That's a scary thought.
I know, I'm getting certified.
Certified crazy?
I'm
I
gonna
don't
get
know,
certified
yeah.
board of supervisor. I said after 8 years, it's
I think you
time.
need to move on because you.
I think we all agree you're certified.
This is true. I am certified. But what I was going to say is, in relation to that piece of the pie for Nelson, I mean, it's eating us up. I mean, $1 million is 3 real estate pennies to make up for. If
Yeah.
the state pulls $1 million every year, we're raising it 3 pennies.
And you don't have a power plant coming on to
No.
offset that.
And then collective bargaining is going to potentially come into play, which, can anyone explain to me what that means? Like, how is the school board going to go into good faith arguments or discussions and
Like you're talking about what the state is
negotiations?
trying to do?
Yes.
Well, since they don't control the purse, how are you going to do that?
How do they do that? I mean, I don't even know. So yes, teacher, you're going to get paid X dollars. Okay, board of supervisors, and we
No.
say we don't have the money.
Right.
Then what?
Yeah.
Like, I've asked that question a few times.
Right.
Well,
right.
then they tried to leverage, negotiate, and/or squeeze the you-know-what of the supervisors to get more money.
That, I mean,
And then they threaten
Well-
goodwill by saying they won't give the kids the money.
Yeah.
crowded
I mean,
classrooms,
it's-
not paying teachers.
I mean, what's
Because it constrains what they would do.
Yeah.
That locks their
Yeah.
operating budget in that they must do that
Yeah.
compensation. So
Yeah.
if the supervisors didn't provide whatever the offset was,
Yeah.
then they'll have to go in and figure out what else to get rid of to make to meet the wages.
This is why I brought up maybe they ought to get their own tax dollars.
I mean, if collective bargaining is coming into play, I mean, and the schools somehow are going into that good faith negotiation through the National Association of Educators or whatever it is, I don't know. I can't comprehend how they can do it.
Well, and if you want to see foreshadowing for what could happen with Nelson,
Yeah.
look at Charlottesville. They were the first across the board collective bargaining, all city employees unionized. Sam Sanders in budget season now with Charlottesville, we need 2 more cents on the real estate tax rate just to cover
The
collective bargaining. Like he literally said, why I'm asking you for 2 cents more is specifically
Yeah.
because of collective bargaining.
Third Friday of next month, we're gonna have some Charlottesville folks in this.
I mean, that's
So that's coming down for Nelson.
Now, to be fair though, if you look, because Albemarle County just signed their collective bargaining agreement on the school division side, the compensation increases that are in there are really in line with what COLA and increases have been anyway. What the Albemarle Education Association really were going for were different kinds of things embedded in the school day in terms of planning time, who's being compensated for what,
Yeah.
and things like that. Now, that does raise compensation, but this supervisor is not unhappy with what they were able to win in that sort of agreement, and it's not hitting it, it's not like they baked in a 10 or 12%
Yeah, it's
wage
just an
increase every year.
uncertainty that we're going to have to measure and, you know.
But correct me if I'm
so-
wrong, it does include a significant increase for support staff though. Teachers,
I believe, yeah.
janitorial,
Oh, I'm sure.
cafeteria,
Which-
aides,
sure.
assistants.
Which I'm
They
not,
deserve.
which I'm not opposed
Well,
to.
and-
So it does create a place where now, it does set up a constrained thing. The school division's required to deliver on that now. And they'll learn whatever the consequences of that are from a financial standpoint with the dollars they get.
Right.
But at the end of the day, let's say the collective bargaining is not there, those internal pieces probably don't happen. Or do in such an incremental way that it takes a long time. And, there were years when I was on the school board where teachers weren't even getting cost of living adjustments. So I'm not going to act as if a 3.75 or something in that 3.5% to 4% raise for teachers is not merited.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that, just taking it a little bit a step further is that ultimately, if the board of supervisors allocates X amount of money and those staff positions have to be increased on the teacher side in order to meet the collective bargaining that has, resulted in,
Right.
well, we need these additional support staff, it really creates a tension because at that point in time, what do? You say, well, here's what we're funding you. Yes, you want that. So I guess you can get that
You're gonna
support
get that,
staff,
yeah.
but you're going to have to reduce your overall staff in order to get that support staff,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And that's a tension that I don't think has been fully played out yet. And I don't know if that's necessarily healthy for the schools. I believe schools should advocate for what they need.
Sure.
Absolutely. And then, we have the difficult
Figure
decision
out
of
the-
saying, here's what we can afford.
Yeah.
But they should definitely advocate for what they need. And one of the things that I'm always frustrated with, especially in years when we aren't able to fully fund a school request, is that what always gets left off are those new positions, which ultimately those new positions are there to drive and improve the quality of the school itself. It's most people don't realize 85% of most budgets are salaries, right? There's
It's
not a
the
lot
same.
left to
But-
play
but
with, right?
I'm going to play devil's advocate here, right?
Sure.
But if we have 8% less children since 2019 and now, how do you?
Well, in Fluvanna County back in 2012, we cut the school budget by $3+ million.
Okay.
So, we're kind of
So
basically
you're
getting
catching
back
up.
to where we
You're
were in
catching
a
up.
sense.
Okay.
But also the other thing too is that, of course, if you take those 12 years and you were to apply COLA to that, that's a pretty significant
Yeah.
increase as well too, right?
So we're catching up. We're
yeah,
catching up
you're,
on-
you're catching up
we
in
were-
a sense.
We didn't have a good enough student to teacher ratio to start with. and now
Oh
we're
yeah,
starting to-
now we're getting kind of back to where we were as a baseline.
Oh yeah. So let me get to some of
Because
these.
we're at.
We can keep going. Let's go longer. The show's rocking and rolling. There's a lot of comments coming in. This is coming from somebody that's asking for anonymity. That's plugged in. elected-wise, locally. Why is the 16 million spent on land use valuation in Albemarle a better use of taxpayer dollars than other ways we could spend that money, for example, schools, roads, sidewalks, or other conservation programs? Question there for.
Glad you got that one.
That's a
Supervisor
good
Gallaway.
Well, I mean, it's yeah, but the answer, I mean, they'll probably won't be satisfied with my answer because it's the same thing we're doing in every other piece. We've got where are the available dollars and what are they being programmed forward, and the challenge that's challenging for all of us that have to make these decisions every budget year is going, well, when I program dollars here, what does that mean for every other? There's what, 12 top priorities in each of our
every
counties,
single
if
one.
not more?
Yeah.
So you have to go, well, what's the value of that program? There's a cost associated with it. Is it legitimate to keep it there? Or do we need to move that over here? Or do we need to raise taxes to be able to pay for something? So the county has decided that that's an appropriate place and a prioritized place for those dollars to go. And instead of pulling money out of it, it's prioritized in a way that increased revenues that we receive, higher tax bills, right, go to fund some of the other important needs that we see. So how the county residents have been dealing with increased services that are part of growth and the things that we're going to see year over year has been their property assessment values go up. That means we've received more tax revenue even though we haven't changed the tax rate, to your point earlier. The last 2 tax rate increases were all dedicated. We've been able to cleanly say to our taxpayers last year, all of this new tax rate dollar money is going to public safety and affordable housing, including the one we just
So,
recommended.
so two things. This guy Ned said, watch how you vote during budget season, you know how it goes. Back on assessed values, just in the, because it's a real estate show.
What?
It's unbelievable.
Are we talking about real estate?
This is, I hope you're doing it, the assessments since COVID and how they've popped. Is that what you're gonna,
No, that's not what I was gonna do, because that's what I don't have in front of me, but
watch, this is.
It's not a real estate show now.
It's not a real estate show now. We're talking about the
Jerry,
referendum.
COVID was 5 years ago.
it usually goes this way, right?
He's just got COVID brain fog.
All right, let's behave, gentlemen. So, we ended median, your county.
Yeah.
Ended median sales price at the end of 2025 at 580. So you're now, this year to date, as of this morning, you're up to 591. Right, so you've already.
And that's basically Q1, end of Q1.
We're not even, yeah.
Yeah.
we're not even
For intensive purposes, we're at
10%.
the end of Q1. So to your point on assessments, right, if we do everything like you're supposed to, you're gonna start seeing numbers going up again.
Oh,
So
yeah.
assessments-
And by the way, giving Albemarle grief, I know that they use a formula-driven, percentage-based model for the most part.
Are we ever
correct?
gonna go to a
Yeah,
yearly?
which I think is
Well,
impressive.
this-
And I think you try to drive to a sustainable rate. I mean, I do think the idea of a sustainable rate is, easier for citizens to understand and digest overall.
Oh, I agree with
You know,
that.
instead of this back and forth,
Well,
the taxes went up or didn't,
And
the needs go up.
That's probably one of the big differences between a rural and urban context, because you can have one major economic event in a rural context, and it just Louisa in the last 10 years is a great example. Bunch of big stuff happened, boom. In Nelson, you get
He's talking about Zion's Crossroads.
yes, yeah.
Well, the whole county.
The whole county.
the whole
The whole
county.
county.
Data
And
centers,
Amazon.
Lions Crossroads.
Amazon, but in the
Fluvanna got
in
Amazon,
more of an
too.
urban context, like certainly there's some level of trajectory we try to look at, especially since we only reassess every 4 years. You do have to traject.
You're gonna change that?
You should.
We've discussed it. We'd like to address that on a regional basis and share that way because it costs us $400,000 just to do
Did bring
these
that
things.
up to.
We've said that a few times.
Christine, yeah.
It's a very reasonable thing, but yes,
But
we look.
how's that gonna work? Because you've got staff that does it, right? We hire out. you hire
The
out.
theory is that multiple jurisdictions, and this is purely theory, no numbers, nothing's hit ink on paper, is that multiple rural jurisdictions could stagger their assessments
Exactly.
and be able to
Hire
share
staff
a
and share the staff costs.
Because it's no reason for us to do it every year. I think that's a little bit too much for Nelson.
No.
But every 2 years is not unreasonable.
Well, and I mean, from experience, I can tell you this, because when I first came onto the board was 2012, right? And we were doing basically 6-year assessments. So we
That's
assessed
terrifying.
at 2007.
Yeah.
And then at 2012.
Wow.
It was a 30% drop.
Yeah, that's
in
how people lose
assessed
their
values.
homes.
That's how- yeah.
No,
That's how people lose
Well,
their
and,
homes.
and to your point there, Jerry, at that point in time, you had seen this really fast growth happen in Fluvanna.
course.
And so you had a lot of new time home buyers. say they bought a home for $350.
They were
back
breaking,
then.
barely surviving at that price cap.
And then all of a sudden they get their assessment that says, oh, your home is only worth $200,000. We had a really high foreclosure and bank short sales in our county because a lot of people just said, you know what? I'm down 150 grand. I've only had this house for
Here's
2
the
years.
keys.
Here are the keys. Walk away. What
it's a
I
little
called white collar foreclosures.
Well, it's a little bit more than here's the key.
But back to my point of the budgeting. I mean, for rural localities, it's usually a year-to-year vision, and the propensity of board changes do happen. I mean, I think that's also the same in your context. But because your budget is $2 billion, $1 billion, your total budget
700 and some.
Yeah.
700 some. Okay, yeah, you have to have that 5-year advisor. You can't govern year to year. Whereas in the local side, like we can put in a week or two's worth of work sessions and figure our stuff out pretty easily. So that's why we kind of keep our day to day. But I do like that concept of, I think, especially when it comes to debt service, you need to have a financial plan. I think every county should have a financial policy. Nelson County is finishing up drafting. Hopefully we'll have something drafted by this year on a financial policy. But for your constituents, how is it that how we explain that jump is always hard. And usually every 4 years, it's not that big. We've just lived a bunch of major inflationary time periods economically that have just absolutely decimated specific geographical areas. Amherst, the neighboring county, if they were to equalize their rate because they did 6 years pre-COVID, they would have to drop their tax rate from I think it's 68 cents or 58 cents to 32 cents to truly equalize. And yeah, I mean, that's dangerous. And maybe there's some philosophy the state has to look at. If we keep having hyperinflation, the state's going to have to step in and figure out what assessments mean, right? What percentage of the assessments we're going to be able to keep going forward. I can see a day where that happens. If rates go up again, if they go up another, couple hundred basis points, I mean, it's going to be disastrous.
And now, we talked about this before the show.
Yeah.
Now the expectation is we will see an increased rate environment in 2026.
I believe it.
Due to inflationary pressure
Yep.
from escalated oil, which is tied to the war in Iran.
Yep.
$3.89 the price per gallon. When I was driving in from Ivy 3.5 weeks ago, actually 4 weeks ago, it was $2.79. So it's up $1.10. And I think, interestingly, with Supervisor O'Brien's county, Fluvanna, I think he's going to see the pressure from the escalating costs in Albemarle. And you already have experienced this, especially since post-COVID.
Yeah.
The population's expected to uptick in Albemarle County. 600 jobs tied to AstraZeneca, $125,000, the average of those 600 jobs. When we raise personal property taxes, real estate taxes, at the same time that assessments go up, the middle class is going to get priced out. They're going to flock to Fluvanna, and as they flock to Fluvanna, that's going to drive values of houses. You're going to see a lot of pressure because of that. Our oldest kid is in private school. It's $25,000 for second grade here. The folks that are coming to Albemarle are, they have money.
Yeah.
They're going to not put their kids in public schools. Yep. They're going to put their kids in private schools or homeschool. It's going to drop the numbers of enrollment with Albemarle County Public Schools, less funding for Albemarle County Public Schools. This is a snowball here.
Well, it's a cycle, and I think that you highlighted a really good point. As our friend here, Mr. Smith, likes to say, people drive till they can buy, right? That's one of your favorite lines, right?
Drive to qualify.
Drive till you
I
qualify.
think we're moving it to fly now.
Yeah, fly till you qualify. Fluvanna County is actually, despite everybody's assessments of it, we've had one of the slowest growth in
I was
in
literally
population.
just going to
Yep.
talk about that. You
In
finish
the last 5 years. So we've actually got very restrictive growth policies right
You know
now.
when the biggest growth years were?
Back in the 90s, yeah, for sure.
90s and 2000.
Yeah,
80
that was-
to 90%
yeah.
of the county filled up in the late 90s and the early 2000s.
Well, it's because you're not doing any development.
We're not doing any development.
Yeah.
At Lake Monticello built out.
to your point is,
It's going to escalate values of homes.
you have new pressure coming
Yeah.
in because
Yeah.
people want to buy, but there's less inventory, and since there's less inventory, it drives the prices up even
Yeah,
higher.
Lake Monticello is a perfect example.
Which drives up affordability problems,
Right.
right? So it's like, and I talk about this all the time, is like, we need to get serious about having, concentrated development, Because I don't like to see horizontal development that much. I don't believe in the sprawl, right? I don't believe in, you get your 5-10 acre, $2 million lot that Albemarle likes to do.
Yeah, Albemarle likes to
because
do
that ultimately does ruin the rural character,
So you
right?
cannot develop in Fluvanna.
Yeah, right now developing in Fluvanna County is a challenge because we've had we've changed our zoning laws. We took away cluster developments, which
That's
is
a
one of
shame.
the few ways that you could do it. And B, because we don't have an infrastructure for water, which is required, public utilities, in order to do the higher density zoning, we've made it very
You do now
difficult.
at the end of a power
We're
plant.
getting there. We're getting there. We're working on that. Yeah, we're working on that.
I
But
need to jump in on this when you.
yeah, but that affordability issue becomes bigger and bigger if
Yeah.
you have restrictive zoning like that. I think our growth in the last 5 years has been under 4%. We were the lowest in the area, if I recall.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
once Colonial Circle builds out,
Fluvanna's
We're
done.
done.
you're done.
Yeah.
We're done.
I do want to. We got more time.
Oh, yeah, keep going. Let's keep going.
I want to jump in a little bit on this power plant conversation that happened because I wrote a note down. I really wasn't going to bring it up until you were talking about our county. So I watched it till about midnight. Us old dudes go to sleep at midnight. We don't like to stay up to 2 o'clock in the morning. Matter of fact, usually 9:30 I'm asleep.
Most of the fun was over by then, but there's a little bit more.
But it was interesting listening to the comments and from the comprehensive plan purists, right, about the power plant, that it didn't meet the comprehensive plan. I've stood in front of you, I've stood in front of every one of these bodies here with a project, a residential project that the planning commission voted for. I just did it in Greene County, voted for, it gets in front of your board, said the planning commission says, yeah, it meets our comp plan, it's in our growth area, yada, 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 gets to the board and gets shut down.
Yeah.
It's very funny how that same people just switched, and I'm just wondering if you had any.
Well,
Feedback on
and
that.
yeah, I do have a lot of feedback on that, to be honest. I mean, in this case, the planning commission.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, no. In this case, the planning commission voted 5-0 against the plant, and I know that there was some politicking happening, if you would, and that some people just didn't make the vote that they should have done. Is my opinion from that standpoint, and I know that there was some further intentions, but that's just the way that fell. Okay, it happens. It is what it is. Not a big deal. I still appreciate all the hard work, energy, and thought that they put into it. It obviously puts you in an awkward position when you're at odds with your planning commission. You don't necessarily want to be that. So if you look at a 5-0 vote and a 4-1 vote, you go, well, there's some disconnect happening here, right? But we are in the process of doing our comprehensive plan, and in that process, because there's been a lot of conversation about the rural character and nature of our county, I'm pretty sure the comprehensive plan just says rural on it. That's it. I mean, I'm kind of joking, but I think the word rural and character and all that kind of stuff is repeated throughout it, and we all get that and we all understand that. I was giving a presentation to the FLDP, Fluvanna Leadership Development Program, and it was a planning presentation. So we had our Todd Fortune, lead planner there speaking. We had one of the planning commissioners and myself. And the planning commissioner was talking about the comprehensive plan and, sort of saying these are the aspirational aspects. This is what we work for. This is what we try to do and create. And after she was done, I said, yes, those are the aspirational aspects, but this is where the sausage gets made. When it gets to the Board of Supervisors, we have to deal with that. So in our comprehensive plan, touted quite a bit about the Tenaska plant. It says that we will have decentralized renewable energy. Okay, decentralized, great. In order to provide the same amount of energy that the Tenaska plant was going to do, we would have to cover 30,000 acres in solar. Now, I'm pretty sure if we were doing that, we'd have a lot of people coming out and talking about that as well, too. I asked Tenaska, and they offered it, to put in a condition, actually a restrictive easement of $2 million to be matched by the county for putting in solar, home solar, right? Mm-hmm. To offset, help reduce. And I thought this would be an innovative program that might be able to be taken on, kind of by the state. As we've seen, the subsidies have been reduced. And so it was, $2 million over 10 years match from that standpoint. I was hoping to also reach out to CVEC and Dominion and see if they would offer some additional monies from that standpoint. Really help to promote solar, reduce the burden on greenhouse gases, right? Our county has the most restrictive solar ordinances probably in the state, i.e. we basically ban solar. Not home solar, this is industrial solar. So we don't allow solar, and then our board voted to take that $2 million, and this was on Wednesday, and apply it to a firehouse that's being built. So basically, they felt that they didn't want to use taxpayer dollars to subsidize green, but yet our comprehensive plan says we want decentralized renewable energy. And I said, well, if we're going to do that, then we need to remove that from the comprehensive plan, right?
So
because
this was a
you are
match.
not putting your money to your mouth, right? If you're going to say this is what we want, then do it, right? And so I was pretty fired up about that. But at the end of the day, money's still going to good use. I'm glad it's still there and appreciate what Tenask offered. Just I think that kind of highlights that dichotomy or that sort of, silliness that sometimes in the aspirational aspect we miss in the practical aspect. And especially in this case where so much of the conversation was how this plan didn't fit with the comprehensive plan. But when you actually took the energy component of it, it was way out of whack to begin with.
But what is the comprehensive plan?
Well, the comprehensive plan is basically a 5-year look into the
It's an
future of where you
aspirational-
want it to go. It's an
it's an
aspirational goal, of what you want it to do, where you want your growth to happen, how you want it to happen, how you want certain pieces of
So when I get
things to
voted
work,
down
yeah.
for housing, I get told it's aspirational.
It's aspirational.
And when-
Even
when
though the
they run it
comprehensive
up, I
plan-
get
We
told-
want affordable housing, but we don't want to build any housing, right?
Well,
I mean,
comprehensive plans are, the guy who was on our board forever, Tommy Harvey, he was on our board for 40 years. He said, that's the most expensive paperweight you'd ever did have. He said, just leave it on the shelf.
This could go on for about another couple hours.
Jeff Richardson, the county executive, did present to the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors that every incremental unit of housing costs, $1.33?
We're gonna,
Net-
Cost of services, yeah.
Yeah, $1.33 in services and generates a dollar in tax revenue.
Yeah.
And
So
what-
a loss of 32 cents for every incremental unit of housing. This is the county executive talking.
In the commercial side, it's 32 cents
tell him where that
per every
document
dollar.
came
So
from.
that's where the
Tell
money's
you where
come
that
from.
data came from.
That was the study that we did to learn on our cost of services, what it would be.
That's exactly-
And even multifamily is kind of embedded in there, but agricultural and commercial had dropped. We're at 11% of tax revenue coming from commercial in 2 years. This is part of our diversification plan. AstraZeneca alone moves it from 11% up to 15%. And everyone has to remember, AstraZeneca wasn't the finish line.
Oh, no.
AstraZeneca was the first lap
Yeah.
of a long race because there's more property on our site and there's more property in North Fork, et cetera. That's the long goal for
Yeah,
us.
that's what we
That's
have to-
when people say, raising our taxes on top of property values going up, what's your long goal? Because this plan isn't sustainable.
Yeah.
That's the long goal.
And you don't get jobs into an area unless you have good quality schools, affordable housing, places where your employees can live. So it's a catch-22. It's easy to say, houses are expensive because of schools, much touted by some of my fellow supervisors. But by the same token, if you're not gonna have housing put in place, then you're gonna have affordability issues.
well, you
If
also
you're not gonna
have-
have density, then you're not gonna have the growth that you say you want. So when you say, I want that Home Depot, or why doesn't Lidl move out to where we live right now? You don't get that because you don't have the
Because they're
density.
traveling in and out.
They're traveling in and out, exactly.
Albemarle County, 2025, 1 million and up was 24, 23 something, I rounded up to 24, 25%. A quarter of all your sales in Albemarle County in 2025 was $1 million and up.
Yeah, and this year's property assessment, the highest growth, so those that grew the fastest, were homes that were valued at 800,000 or more, and the million plus was hitting like that 10, 11% kind of growth year over year.
So, my comment always is real estate is location, price, features,
Right.
condition, timing, who's on the other side matters. I have a half a dozen buyers looking to buy between the 1 and 1.5 in your county, and I can't find them anything, and when I do, it's multiple offers.
Ours, a little higher than that. Talk to us here. You know us here. Let's make that happen.
I'm just talking about.
Just got to convince my wife now.
I love
You moved to
you all.
Fluvanna.
And people have to
Hey,
remember,
3 houses.
Jerry, I love you.
3 houses.
I love you dearly, but I fear your wife. I'm just-
She would do it. I just got to.
Hey, you could have prime waterfront.
Prime waterfront. Excuse you.
That's if they can
Water's
come on the
nice.
market.
That's right, if they come on the market.
But
But people have to remember, like 5 years ago, that $1 million, $1.5 million home was not a $1 million.
No.
Well, that's the point.
So, your waterfront property at $1.2 million, the waterfront's probably what, a puddle that you put out there with your hose? That house was probably what, $600,000, $700,000
Yeah.
4 or 5
So that's the
years
point
ago?
I'm trying
Yeah.
to make. This conversation last year, that number wasn't quite up.
And wait 24 to 36 months when 600 people come with $125,000 salaries with AstraZeneca.
Oh, yeah.
Just one person, not including the partner salary.
So I can't.
The husband or wife also
I can't
working.
talk about the specific buyers, but that's who the
people is it?
buyers
Yeah.
is that I'm working.
How many people are coming from
Uh,
AstraZeneca?
600 just for AstraZeneca.
And they're
125,000 average, just the 600.
and they're dinks.
There is some data out there that suggests, and it was presented
Dual
at
income,
the
no kids.
chamber,
No kids.
Oh, yeah.
at the
means no
Chamber
tax
State of the
burden.
Community.
That's-
Chamber State of the Community this year was just a few weeks ago, where Sam and Jeff give the State of the Community reports. But the Weldon Cooper Center's Hamilton Lombard said that if you have 600 folks come, and it's not 125,000 average.
Right.
125,000 is the minimum
Minimum.
wage. So I don't know the full mix of
Yeah.
how that works.
120, so I got to change my wording. 125,000 is the entry point?
Is the entry point.
Okay, thank you, Ness.
So
They generally have two incomes.
what happens
Yeah.
at that, right, is he said even at that level, with what you're seeing in terms of land values, pricing, home pricing, and things like that, and he said this in front of everyone, is that you might not be the ones taking the hit of those bulk of those 600 employees, because even they aren't going to be able to afford to live in your
This
county.
is true.
Yeah, right.
Man.
Yeah, that's why Fluvanna and Green are about to hit.
But I don't have the inventory.
Well, what it's just going to drive up the values.
Isn't
Green has
Green's
the
got some
inventory.
big inventory
But I don't
coming
have
in.
the inventory. As God is my witness, I have buyers at that price range that are walking away with multiple offers. We've got no home inspections at that price point in your county. No home inspections, appraisal waivers. For those that don't know what that is, they're going to cover the cash difference
Cash to the table.
between what it appraised. So this means these people know they're buying a home that isn't going to appraise, and they're prepared to bring the cash to the table.
Wow.
And it's crazy. And just to talk about a couple of quick numbers, and we're way over time,
Yeah.
right? 591 is the median right now. In order to hit 80% for the land trust,
Yeah.
right? You got to be at 250. That's a 340. That's just median.
You had to
can
make
find-
250K.
You got to come up with $341,000 and plus closing costs just to put that 80% AMI buyer. And oh, by the way, that's 80% of 125,000, which is not a small number.
When's the new HUD family meeting
Usually comes out in April.
in April? So very soon.
It's very soon.
And it's 125,900 now.
It is.
It's actually 126 something, so it'll probably inch up, I thought.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
a
last year
pretty
it was
big
already higher than
no, it was
125.
125.9, right?
It's 125 something. I can't remember.
So it must have been 124 the year.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
right. That's right. Yeah.
You'll see it creep up again. I think the year after that, when all these dollars hit,
When is the true AstraZeneca like impact that we will see? Like, what is you're teaching me here? Like
From-
with
From what? Impact, what do you mean?
people
Revenue?
here, like up and run, like when we start
Oh,
seeing
that-
600 people.
you got contractors in now.
I think them up and running is going to be a couple of years out, but based on the incentive packages and what how we're looking out over 25 years, we'll start pulling revenue in from them in year 3.
Okay, 3 years from now?
3 years from now.
Okay, and then people start coming here in 2028?
I don't know the exact
knows?
number.
But
I
they're
don't know
moving
what
fast though, man.
Yeah, they're not gonna, I mean, you don't do something like that at that level
Yeah,
to mess around. Now, one of the things that's why like this year, we're putting $4 million into economic development that will translate right over to getting Boulders Road extended.
Yep.
And folks are like, well, why would you spend that $4 million for that? Because the whole project's $43 million. We got $20 million from the state, we got $12 million from AstraZeneca. We got a couple of grants to the tune of a couple $100,000, or a couple hundred, about $1 million. So our $4 million has turned into $43 million to be able to build that road, which is critical.
Did you guys, curiosity, did AstraZeneca buy the land?
So, with what I can tell you, with what the incentive package is total,
Yeah.
over 25 years, the revenue, the projected revenue from that project alone is $705 million. The incentives that we have put in place for them, it's just short, but it's basically $100 million. So all of that over 25. So if you take that, that's about $606 million of revenue to the county over 25 years. It's about $25 million a year. Starting
But
in
that
year 3.
doesn't,
So is that a,
but Ned, that's direct. It doesn't do the induced
Correct.
income, right?
The indirect, yeah.
no, it's fantastic economic development. You guys are crushing economic
So,
development.
there's just with, there's the mix between, we'll get all the details out there when it's all.
Okay.
Well, and I
All
think
right.
something that, we're talking about homes and people buying homes, but also lost on the conversation is that for those that aren't buying homes, they're renting. And guess what? You're renting from people who bought an expensive home.
Exactly.
And so your rents go up. And if your rents go up, the next thing you see is people that can't afford that. And so, when we look at some of the challenges that Charlottesville's facing, let's face it, those are a lot of the homeless folks that are coming from our surrounding areas because the services are there.
So I'm an
And then you look at that and you look at
Right.
the impact that it has on this area
This
right
whole
here.
area.
And you've told some stories, Jerry, about some of the
it's-
fun that happens down here.
it's-
It ultimately impacts a gem
In-
of the county.
And Jen,
I mean, a gem of the
specifically is
area.
impacting
right?
Charlottesville City.
Yeah. But I'm saying,
Yeah.
downtown mall is a gem of Central Virginia, right? And so the city has to deal with the homeless issues, and they got to spend money on it.
Oh.
So I mean, it's an entirely I don't want to say virtuous,
think-
spiraling circle that can be very damaging.
When I hear AstraZeneca coming to Nelson, all I see is my LCI going up even more because in Nelson, from a real estate perspective, the buyers who we get are cash people. Like I haven't never looked at what CAR says what the percentage of cash is.
Total around 33%.
I believe it, and it might
For
be
the
even
car
higher
footprint.
for just the car footprint. But I would bet in the Nelson County context, it'd be closer to 50%, and they're showing up with $700 million.
But they're on the mountain.
That's specifically Wintergreen.
Well, that 151 corridor itself,
Okay.
all the way past into the Roseland area, we're starting same mountain views.
No, what you got is me.
What I got is you, right?
Boom.
He's talking boomers with money.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're watching the whole transition in the Wintergreen community, right? So that was who was the buyer in the 80s and 90s of the Wintergreen community? That was probably the greatest generation, right? 70s, 80s, getting their mountaintop. Now we're seeing the boomers transition because we originally said, when all these old folks, age out and or leave or pass away, who replaces them? Oh, the next generation's equivalent.
So what's the age of the first-time home buyer nationally?
Nationally, I thought it was at 40.
It's 40. Very nicely done. Jesse Rutherford, yeah.
Well,
40.
that is
First-time
who I
home
built
buyers,
houses
age
for.
40.
National Association of
Yeah.
Realtors is 40 years old, first time home buyer.
And,
You know
and,
what?
and, and,
Scary.
that's terrifying
That's
because
so
Do you know what
terrifying.
the average age of the buyer is? 56.
wow.
The average
generation is
resale,
that?
in other words, person that, like me, that's moving,
Yeah.
62.
Wow.
Yeah, unbelievable.
I'm going to tell you how much cash in 2025, but we're way over.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Jerry's been.
No. This has been great. I want to thank these guys. They are good guys. Good people. I think this is a good indication of you can have a conversation about a touchy subject, politics and taxes, and do it in a respectful way.
You had
That's what we did.
166 sales last year, 62 of them, so was cash.
So
And
30.
Nelson?
Still about 30.
Wow. There we
Around
go.
30%.
So it's about
It's been
average.
holding in all the jurisdictions.
Everywhere.
Somewhere around.
That's still
33%
huge.
plus or minus. You'll see a little bit more in your jurisdiction, but it's roughly 30, which is a huge number. Historically, since '87, I've never seen numbers
30%.
like that.
Keith Smith, Tony O'Brien, Ned Gallaway, Jesse Rutherford. The show is archived for anyone that's asking wherever you get your social media or podcasting content. Judah Whitcara behind the camera. I like what you did with the 5-shot. Worked out well.
Thank you, Judah.
Judah Whitcara moved some mountains today. Stay engaged, folks. All politics matter, but local politics really matter.
Yes, I do.
And you're seeing that here. Thank you, Keith.
Just like real estate, everything's local.
Everything.
Gentlemen, thank you. This was a lot of fun. I couldn't think of a better group of folks to kick off this series. So.
Until next week.
No, I've already thought somebody better.
realtor.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I've
you're the
already
best client I ever
He's a realtor.
had today.
Thank you guys. Always a
Hey, thank
pleasure.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
You had to get it
I'll
at the end.
say props for thee, not for me.
There we go. That was the saying. Judah like that. Judah's laughing behind the camera.
Hey, and I do have to give a shout out to the people of Fluvanna. We did have a big meeting, and
was handled well.
the people were great. They were respectful of each other's
Oh, yeah.
opinions. And
Everybody on the
that was
panel,
great.
on the dais was respectful. The
Yeah.
portion that I watched,
Yeah.
which is encouraging, right?
It is always encouraging.
Nobody broke down into.
We had one person shout out, but that was basically
that's
it.
How many people did you have in the room?
About 200, less than I would have expected. I thought it was going to be 500, 400, but
Well, that place
After-
holds 1,000, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Politics have really put a lot on.
He needs to go.
No,
He's
it's
got
good,
another
it's good.
show to do. We'd be doing this all day long.
Keith, Tony, Ned, Jesse, Judah, I'm Jerry. Thank you for joining us on Real Talk with Keith.
Thanks, guys.
So,
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
He's going to tell us when the mics are off.